So the first thing that we do is we're going to darken the highlights and we're going to open up the shadows. Okay, these are the two basic steps that we need for tonal recovery, so to speak. Now, as I do this, you can notice that we still have some bright patches here, up here in the sky, and the overall image looks quite bright. It's very much on the bright side. So I'm going to reduce the overall exposure just a little bit. I'm going to raise the contrast some. And I'm going to tone down the whites a bit more to get rid of those overexposed spots that we had here. And all I'm trying now is I'm trying to get a nice balance between the deep shadows and the brightest highlights here. All with the sliders that Lightroom gives me. And you can see that I have to go pretty extreme here with the highlight slider almost to -100 and the shadow slider almost to +100 to recover that complete range here. Okay, so the next thing, as usual, would be the presence section here, where we can add some more local contrast. And then I would play with the vibrance slider, drive it too much to the right to see what it actually does. It's going to increase the saturation of the greens and the blues predominantly in this image, which is not surprising because the image is mainly consisting of blues and greens that have been a little bit on the muted side due to the HDR merging procedure. So let me just experiment a little bit with those vibrance and saturation sliders. And I think just about here, we get a nice, rich, natural-looking green in the vegetation, and the blue in the sky starts coming out nicely. Let's just go in here, activate the adjustment brush, and I'm going to work on the sky as the first thing here with the local adjustments. And what I'm trying to achieve is I'm trying to get some of the depth back into that sky. Some of the color and some of the contrast, trying to get some of the structure back that we have in those areas here if I am able to do that. And I'm also trying to get back some of the blue color and possibly also work on the clouds separately to get some more of a sunrise feeling into those clouds. Okay, so let me just try and do that. As before, make sure you have the Show Selected Mask overlay ticked down here, and make your brush a reasonable size for the area that you're trying to mask. I'm going to go with a flow value of 100 because I want to apply the full mask with each brush stroke, okay? I don't need fine-grained control over the amount of masking that's applied here. And then, most importantly, I'm going to check the auto mask feature as before. And then I'm just putting my brush down on the image and with the cross well inside the sky area and the brush area ranging outside the area so that Lightroom has a chance to detect where the border, the transition between the sky and the remaining image is. And you see that this works very nicely again. And we already have a very nice mask of the border area. Now let me just quickly uncheck auto mask and mask the rest up here. Those portions where it's not as important to be very accurate because I'm far enough away from the other objects, the foreground, the trees and the little palace here. And now what's left is to mask those areas inside the trees here as before. Let me just zoom in. And I'm going to enable auto mask again. I'm going to click on those sections where I want to apply the masking. I'm going to pick a larger sized brush so that I can catch more of those areas. And you can see that this is really, it's not difficult, but it's it's a bit of work that you may want to invest. You can also try to apply your adjustments and see if it's actually necessary to mask those areas, whether it looks unnatural with the areas between the twigs and leaves not having the adjustment that you're going to dial in. Sometimes you get away with that, sometimes it's not possible. It looks like the sky in those areas is a different one than the sky in the other areas. So I'm not going to be overly precise here, just to save some time and not bore you too much. I'm going to go to the other side here. There's one area where we should apply some of the mask. But other than that, there are some small areas here. And just remember, whenever you make a wrong step, so you go in here and paint over the tree, for example, just undo. So I have mapped the Control-Z key combination on the tablet key here, but I could just as well hold down Control or Command on a Mac and press the Z letter just to go one step back and undo that masking step. But right now, I think I'm pretty happy with the mask, except maybe for that middle part here where I saw some issues. So let me just get a little smaller brush here and then mask those areas too. Whoops. And one of the downsides of this method is that Lightroom tends to get a little bit sluggish when you do this kind of masking. Okay, so I think we're fine now with this mask. Now it's time to untick this Show Selected Mask overlay and go to the adjustments. And the first thing that I want to do is to get down the highlights just a little bit, just to get back some of the details that we've had in these bright highlights here. Raise the saturation just a little bit to get those blues out nicely. Add some clarity and maybe play with the dehaze slider. That's going to give us a very deep blue sky, as you can see. And as I said, you can always choose to undo those changes and change them later on should you not be happy anymore with what you see. So a little more clarity here to get out those details in the clouds, and I think that's looking nice. So that's the before and that's the after. I think we've enriched the sky some more and added some depth to it. The next step, as I already said, is going to be that I'm going to try to enhance those clouds, the clouds themselves, a little bit more here. So I'm going to create another adjustment. And this time, I'm still going to use the auto mask, but I'm going to reduce the flow value, because this time I want to have more control over the areas where I apply the mask and over the amount of mask that is applied to each of these areas. Excuse me. And with those settings and a little bit of a smaller brush here, I'm going to start brushing on those clouds. You can see that the auto mask feature keeps most of those of the mask away from the blue parts of the sky and really nicely confines the mask that I'm creating here to the clouds themselves. They turn reddish, but as you've seen, that's only the mask overlay. That's not related to the adjustments that I'm going to apply in a second. And you can see that the auto mask feature really, really works nicely here. Even on those fluffy clouds, which sometimes are very fuzzy at the edges, and that can create a problem for any masking technique. So let me switch that off, and then what I'm mainly trying to achieve is to get some color back. Now you see that there is some yellow and some orange in here, and the first thing that I'll try is to raise the saturation here to get those colors back. And then, if that's not enough, you can just make those tones a little bit warmer here, and you get this nice yellow color in those clouds, which is a nice contrast also to the blue parts of the sky. And then again, you can play a little bit with the dehaze slider to get some more depth into those clouds with the clarity. Maybe work on the contrast just a little bit. It's all rather subtle what I did here, except for the color adjustments. But I think that gives us a very nice clouds that make a very nice contrast to the blues in the sky.